Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night to you true hydrogen enthusiasts across the globe joining us today for yet another webinar in our series around climate technology. My name is Martin Lambert. I'm the Science and Technology Counselor for Flanders Investment and Trade, usually based in Copenhagen, covering Northern Europe, but now today speaking to you from our head office here in Brussels in the region of Flanders. We will discuss hydrogen and more particularly challenges, opportunities in the field of hydrogen. And we'll also discuss a little bit the role that this small but impactful region of Flanders is playing in this area. Luckily, I'm not alone here today. I am joined with 4 brilliant minds from our ecosystem. Mr. Adwin Martens from the hydrogen cluster Waterstofnet, Gilles de Can from the Port of Antwerp-Bruges. We have Laurent Remy from Fluxys and also Denis Thomas from Accelera Cummins joining us today in this webinar. I will let everybody introduce themselves more extensively, but maybe before we go into the topic of hydrogen and we dive in, let's take a step back. As I am extremely happy to mention that we are with over 400 registrants for this webinar, which shows the importance and the interest of the topic in today's economy. So let's take a step back, and I will explain you a little bit about the region of Flanders and also our organization, Flanders Investment and Trade. Flanders Investment and Trade is the trade and investor organization of Flanders. We are spread across the globe. So you probably won't have to go too far to find a colleague of mine with close to 100 offices in all continents, so you can find us very nearby, I'm sure. Next to our regular offices, we also have 10 dedicated science and technology offices with 3 focus domains, being climate technology, life science, and also health tech as a focus area. Myself, I'm mostly focused on climate technology and then covering the European region at this point. I'd like to mention also that we're opening up 3 new offices for science and technology very soon. If you have any interest in joining our organization, don't hesitate to reach out as well. Flanders. So for those of you who might not know, which might be the case, as we are with people from over 40 different countries today in this that have registered for the webinar. Flanders is there, nicely located in the heart of Europe, in the north part of Belgium, counting between 6 and 7 million people that live in the region, so it's quite a dense region. Very interesting for businesses is that you have 60% of Europe's purchasing power at your doorstep. And next to that, you're also very well connected, or it's quite easily to connect to our neighboring hubs, for example, London, Amsterdam, Paris, and also in Germany, Berlin. In 1 or 2 hours by train or by flight, you can reach those important hubs as well. Of course, Flanders is made out of its cities, and its cities are sometimes more known. A few of them mentioned here. These are the capital cities of the different provinces we have: Ghent, Bruges, we have Brussels, Antwerp, and also Hasselt and Leuven there. So 5 provinces, Brussels right in the middle. Each of them with a very strong historical value, but don't be fooled by just the looks. Also behind that, there is each of them also contains a thriving business ecosystem. If you want to know more about each individual one, also definitely reach out, and some of them will already be covered here today in the webinar, so you'll learn a little bit more what's happening in each of these regions as well. Okay, what are the key ingredients for a successful business ecosystem, and then after that, how does that work out for the field of hydrogen? Let's start with those key ingredients that I believe that we have here, which are quite unique in this region. Number 1 is the connectivity. We've played this role since a very long time, even dating back to the 13th century, with one of the first trade exchanges being hosted in the city of Bruges, when there was the flourishing textile industry still in that time. So that's quite unique. But also a little bit more recently, when there was the COVID crisis, we played an important role as a connectivity hub, as a transport and logistics hub, with, for example, the airport in Brussels being kind of a spill and a very important part in the logistics of distributing the COVID vaccines. Not only were they distributed from there, they were also produced in our region. Over hundreds and hundreds of millions were produced here, and also the R&D, which was here, has played a very important role in defining the strategy of handling the COVID crisis. So lots of things that were happening here. There's a few other things that we need to highlight. There's, of course, the dense railroad and the dense, let's say, connectivity within our region, but also to the neighboring countries like France, Germany, the UK, and so on. But there is also the ports. And the ports, they play a particularly important role, especially also in the field of energy and in the field of hydrogen. A few examples, not everybody's represented here today, but a few of the examples which will maybe not be mentioned later on, which I want to definitely highlight now. For example, the port of Ostend playing a crucial role in the field of offshore wind development. The port in Ghent, North Sea port, a huge role when it comes to they play a very important role in terms of enabling the big industrials that are surrounding and are part of the North Sea port, like ArcelorMittal, like Cargill, like Volvo Cars. They're all present there, and they're part of this North Sea port ecosystem. And by the way, North Sea port also being a great example of cross-border collaboration with our neighboring country in the Netherlands. Then there is also Port of Antwerp-Bruges, but I'll let Gilles explain a little bit later about that. Maybe one thing to highlight already is that, of course, within the field of energy, we have the fifth most important LNG terminal, also based here at our small coastline. It's only 60 kilometers, but used very, very well, I have to say, where we have the fifth most important LNG terminal playing a very important role in the import and export of LNG in the European region. So that's what I would call ingredient number one, being a connectivity hub, being a place where things move around, import and export being a very important part here of our economy. A second ingredient, talent. And talent is a challenge everywhere these days, because businesses are really looking for more and more talent. They're looking for specific skills and expertise. And we're lucky here to have 5 internationally renowned universities, KU Leuven, Ghent, Antwerp, Hasselt, and also in Brussels, the VUB. We have 5 universities, each with their unique strength and expertise, and also internationally ranked very high when it comes to their excellence and in terms of graduates that are coming from those universities. There's of course the topic knowledge, and there is the deep knowledge that they are developing at the universities. But there's also a second part of our talent group here available in the region, and that is not to be underestimated these days. Definitely not when you talk about international collaboration, and that is language skills. Belgium is known for having 3 languages here. So we have Dutch in the Flemish region, there is French in the Walloon region, and also the German, which is maybe not that known to you. So it's a third country language that we have here in Belgium. So I have to say it's really in our DNA to be able to speak multiple languages, to be able to work with different cultures together, and that makes us also kind of attractive for neighboring countries. So we can also make use of talent that comes from across borders and joins us here in the ecosystem, and they're quite easily integrated into our ecosystem. So that's another advantage I would say that this region has. A third one, closely linked to this talent, is of course the very high importance that we put on innovation. And to put that in numbers, roughly 3.6% of our GDP in Flanders is spent on R&D. And that's a remarkably high number and puts us among the top 3, top 5 globally when it comes to R&D expenditure. So that's quite, so that's a number that kind of proves that we are really putting a lot of emphasis on this aspect of R&D, research, innovation. That are really the key things that we are focusing on here as a business region here in in Flanders. It also makes us one of the innovators in Europe, together with, for example, the Scandinavian countries where I'm living at the moment, Denmark, Sweden, and so on. We are kind of part of this group of European innovators, and we're also quite proud of that. A last thing that is, of course, needed is a supportive investment climate. That means subsidies. That also means, tax incentives for R&D. If you want to know more about that, you can either reach out to me, to the organization Flanders Investment and Trade, or you could also check out your neighbor, the local FIT office in your country or in your neighboring country or region where you're located. I'm definitely sure that one of my colleagues will be able to assist you and help you in figuring out what incentives we further have to offer. Okay, with that, already one small slide regarding the bridge as a bridge towards today's topic, which is hydrogen. So how does this all translate? I think being a connectivity hub will also play a very important role when it comes to the hydrogen economy. It will be extremely important as a region like ourselves to continue playing this role as an import-export hub for hydrogen. We've already played it in many different fields, for example, also in LNG, and we will continue to play it in the green molecules economy moving forward. R&D know-how will remain important. It has already, is already playing an important role today in the field of hydrogen, and one of the speakers today will explain you a little bit more about the different applications and innovations that are currently being developed here in the region of Flanders. Okay, last thing I would like to mention here is the market. So as a business, we mentioned 60% of purchasing power is here, but maybe specifically for hydrogen, I'd like to add that the biggest chemical cluster in Europe is residing right here in the area of the port of Antwerp-Bruges. And that is, on one end, a particular part of the industry that requires very drastic, let's say, innovation and changes when it comes to the green transition, where hydrogen will play an important role. But on the other hand, also provides you with a market. So there you have immediately, as a hydrogen producer, for example, a lot of companies that will be in need for greener hydrogen in the future. I'd like to mention a last thing on this slide that is, of course, kind of the reason why we are here, right? Collaboration. The reason why we are here today is that we want to reach out to you guys out there and want to make sure that we connect and that we can collaborate together, because I don't believe that this green transition challenge is something that we can do by ourselves or that anybody else could do by themselves. So collaboration will be key moving forward, and I hope this webinar will contribute to that a little bit. Enough about myself. I will now let the speakers introduce themselves. We'll kick off with Mr. Adwin Martens. He is founder and also Chief Strategy Officer at Waterstofnet, or Hydrogen Cluster. So Adwin, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Maarten, for this opportunity to tell the story of Flanders on the area of hydrogen. Maybe a short introduction for Waterstofnet, because we are a small organization, but we started in 2009, so already now 15 years ago. We are a non-profit organization, but we are now working with 14 persons, at headquarters in Turnhout, and also a small office in the Netherlands. We are organized on 4 pillars. First is an industrial ecosystem that we are developing. It's over 170 industrial members for the moment, and it's growing every day. The second thing is projects, because you can build ecosystems, but in the end, you need projects. So we are also involved in about 20 projects that are under construction of already realized. Because of this ecosystem and because of the projects, the Flemish government is asking us for advice on how to make the next steps on hydrogen, also working quite close together with Flanders Investment and Trade on this. And of course, we do also some studies and some consultancy, but I can tell you that 40% of our activities is going to the cluster, 40% is going to to the projects, and about 15% is to the government, and only 5% is for studies and consultancy. We have also hands-on experience. Of course, we are driving already a hydrogen car for over 10 years now. We have also, and also we are involved in 12 fueling stations in the Benelux. So we have also some hands-on experience. I told you something about this cluster, and indeed, as Maarten already said, Flanders is really in the middle of the Benelux area also, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. And then we see that this 170 members are situated in Benelux, but I think 140 members are really situated in Flanders. So the bulk of these members is in Flanders. And the second picture is that you see that they are really well covered over the whole value chain. I must say that it starts from the production of hydrogen. The third column you see that are the technology providers, and that's a very full one. And that's quite unique for a region that we have a lot of technology suppliers, quite unique ones. You will hear today some of those. But also it's good is the final column, that's the end users. I can tell you that several years ago the end user column was quite empty, but now we see that also end users are starting to think on hydrogen. And it's extremely important that you have end users on board, because you can have all kind of suppliers of technology, but finally you need end users. So we see that this value chain is really now coming to reality, also with the players that we have in Flanders. Now I can tell you that every country in Europe and every region has this kind of figures with a lot of logos, some 20 logos, 50, 100, 500 logos. But I always say you don't need logos, you need pictures, photos. Is there something made? Is there something demonstrated? And I think it's good always to ask people behind the logos, can you show some reality things that are happening? And then I have made this slide with a short overview of the things that you can find in Flanders, being made in Flanders or demonstrated in Flanders. So the first one is the 1 megawatt fuel cell plant. It's already built in the port of Antwerp in 2011 with Solvay Umicore being the suppliers of technology using byproduct hydrogen, 1 megawatt fuel cell plant at that time. The second one is the first hydrogen refueling station with forklifts in Europe, using as well an alkaline electrolyzer as a PEM electrolyzer, using solar and wind, already installed in 2012 and still running. So this is expanded a few years ago to a 700 bar public fueling station where you see the dispenser of the hydrogen next to the other fuels. Also a fueling station near the Toyota Motor Europe premises in the neighborhood of Brussels from Air Liquide. A 20 megawatt burner on hydrogen working in the industry on byproduct hydrogen is also running in Flanders and developed in Flanders. This fueling station near the port house of Antwerp is used for fueling cars, trucks and even small vessels, with also an electrolyzer on site made in Flanders by Accelera by Cummins. A first demonstration of a container tracker in the port of Antwerp Bruges with the mobile refueling station. Garbage trucks being built in Flanders and being used in Antwerp by the city of Antwerp. An existing industrial network on hydrogen by Air Liquide. A vessel in the port of Antwerp using a dual fuel engine. The first truck, 40-ton truck with a fuel cell on hydrogen used by Colruyt, being built by VDL, is already tested for several years ago. A 1 megawatt engine developed on hydrogen, developed by ABC in Ghent and CMB, a joint venture B Hydro, already tested here. So we have also a straddle carrier in the port of Antwerp using a dual fuel engine in real operation. We have an engine here of 100 kilowatt on hydrogen. We have for residential applications small electrolyzers and fuel cells that can be used. The biggest PEM electrolyzer in the world, made by Accelera by Cummins, which you will hear later on, has been built in Flanders. Borat is making bipolar plates for fuel cells for electrolyzers. Agfa is making the bulk of all membranes for alkaline electrolyzers in Flanders. We have here the solar panels by Solid making hydrogen directly out of solar panels. We have Bekaert making transport layers for fuel cells and electrolyzers. We have the pipeline of Fluxus, the last one, being a natural gas pipeline, but it's already now hydrogen ready. It's installed last year. So we have a truck with a dual fuel engine. So we have a truck with the fuel cell here tested, but also with the dual fuel engine, an excavator with a dual fuel engine. A tugboat has been launched recently on hydrogen, and also a vessel shipping shoes from between the Flanders and the Netherlands by Nike using a fuel cell on hydrogen. So this is a snapshot. It's not completely, but you see that things are really happening here. I think it's very important because we can have a lot of PowerPoints, but you see that if it's about technology and innovation, we have some track record in Flanders, and we should use this for the next developments, because it's not about our own technology and demonstration. As already said, we have also some unique selling points for hydrogen and Flanders regarding our position in the future. And then indeed, as already said, we have 4 complementary port areas working on hydrogen within 125 kilometers. There are no much countries in the world where you find this dense activity of ports, and as already said by Maarten, they are really complementary. Antwerp, I think on chemicals, Ghent, to mention steel, Zeebrugge, import energy, and Ostend is offshore wind. So with those 4 port areas, we can really cover an important part of the hydrogen future. We have also we are also importing now a lot of natural gas, and of course we want to make this to make the change to shift to green molecules. And of course, we have a large demand, also very important, a very large demand on clean hydrogen, because we are talking about chemicals, about steel, about heavy-duty mobility. So we are also an end user of this. And of course, last but not least, we have a unique hydrogen technology developers and suppliers in our region. So with those 4 points, we think that we can we can help making this hydrogen story become reality. And of course, hydrogen is an international thing. Hydrogen will be international success, or there will be no hydrogen. So therefore, I think as Flanders, I can tell you that we are looking forward for cooperation with all the countries in the world to make the next steps in this realization of this hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albin. I remember that we not only develop hydrogen applications here, but we actually also put them to use. And we actually put them, we pilot them, we test them, and they are actually working in our region. That is of course what needs to happen to move forward. Questions can be asked, but we will cover them after all the presentations will have been finished. So put them in the chat. I believe there is an option to put some questions in the chat. The team behind the scenes will kind of follow up and pass the questions to us later on. For the next presentation, we move over to Mr. Gilles de Can from the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, who will now explain a little bit what is happening there.
Thank you, Maarten, for the intro, and thank you for having me here. I'd like to share indeed a bit of insights from the port's perspective, from Port of Antwerp-Bruges. For those who don't know you have indeed a snapshot here of Belgium at the bottom, and so Flanders in the north of Belgium. And so both our ports, we are a merger between the Port of Zeebrugge and the Port of Antwerp, are located in the Flanders region. The main reason for the merger 2 years ago, if I can say, has been this energy transition. The 2 ports are quite complementary in that regard, with Zeebrugge at the seaside importing large quantities of energy already today in the form of LNG. 20% of the European gas market flows through that point in Zeebrugge. With Antwerp a bit more centrally in Flanders, very close to the industrial region in Flanders, also to the industrial regions in our neighboring areas, with chemical industry today consuming large quantities of energy. However, those energy consumption today is of course fossil, but we strongly believe that giving this experience, this expertise, being a chemical hub, being a maritime hub, having infrastructure in place for the reception, the imports, the storage and throughput of molecules, for the consumption of molecules, having logistical connectivity to the range surrounding our ports, puts us in a very strong position to also work on this energy transition and make the shift to more renewable and clean energy use. How does then our ambition, our strategy in regards to that look like? Well, first of all, we want to accelerate, further deploy renewable energy assets in our region. Solar panels, wind installations, offshore wind. There also the Port of Zeebrugge can play an important role, where cables, for example, can come to land, where you can have a bit of storage facilities by batteries or even by electrolyzers. But in general, the Flanders area is quite limited to its renewable energy potential, so we will have to complement it with other solutions as well. A second solution is the use of CCS, so carbon capture and storage. We have large industries today. They emit, unfortunately, quite a lot of CO2. So a very short-term solution in bringing that CO2 emissions down is capturing it at the tailpipe, storing it and exporting it. And also there, we strongly focus on getting that happen. And as a port, we can play a crucial role there in the storage and the export of that molecule, of course. Thirdly, to then fill in the lack of renewable energy that we have, we will have to source our renewable energy from elsewhere, we strongly believe. There will be a bit of local hydrogen production, but will not be sufficient to cover all our needs, the large industrial needs and the renewable energy deficit that we have. So we have to source it elsewhere and then, of course, transport that energy, and therefore the form of hydrogen and hydrogen carriers are most efficient or effective. We can build on the assets that we have, on the storage infrastructure, on the transport infrastructure, to receive, store and transport it. And also there on that transport option, we have that we are very well connected to our neighboring regions, to the other industrial clusters, to bring the energy, the hydrogen and hydrogen carriers that enters our ports to the surrounding customers. And so to realize that ambition, to import hydrogen and serve the industrial needs, we have established, from a port perspective, a hydrogen roadmap towards 2030. We want to accelerate these hydrogen developments and get that economy flowing or in place by 2030. And so if we're looking at the 2030 phase, covering the entire value chain from supply, infrastructure and offtake. We want to enable large-scale imports of different hydrogen carriers, get new infrastructure such as terminals, such as conversion units, such as pipelines in place in the port and in the surrounding area, so that we can serve those large industrial off-takers that have often no other solution for decarbonization than the use of new fuels, new molecules for their processes. And then I'm talking about the chemical industry, especially present in Antwerp, but also the steel industry, the maritime industry, and heating, high temperature heating application in different industrial end use cases. That's a 2030 vision. The roadmap is trying to get us there. by already today doing studies, starting up partnerships, starting like Adwin mentioned already today with concrete applications in mobility cases, getting refueling stations off the ground, getting the first engineering studies or demonstration units for crackers operational. So definitely that ecosystem is moving, and the port is a very concrete location where we can get those several applications ongoing. And perhaps one aspect of our roadmap that I would like to highlight is the infrastructural part. As a port, infrastructure is very close to our heart, and if we want to enable the large industries in our area to be supplied from hydrogen all across the globe, we as a port will have to be ready to receive, store and transport those molecules. Like I mentioned, we have existing know-how and infrastructure to do so, but the challenge is large. The molecules that we expect to be imported is huge. So we will need to expand on that know-how and on that infrastructure. And luckily, we have partners in the port, we have companies in the port that are doing this, that are developing new ammonia tanks, that are looking into methanol tanks, liquid hydrogen possibilities, and so on. And you have a few examples on the bottom left of the slide. You have Fluxys at Vario, you have Volpac, VTTI, building new reception terminals, building new ammonia reconversion units. You have Air Liquide that is also testing such reconversion unit. So that's from the terminal aspect, but also on the pipeline aspect. It was already mentioned today. There is a hydrogen network today. There are also several product pipelines in the port, but Fluxys, and I'm sure they will mention it themselves as well, are building a new open access hydrogen network so that those volumes of hydrogen that enter into our region can freely be transported between the different locations so that it can be optimally, cost effectively get to the end consumer. Perhaps to end with, I give you here as well, just like Adwin, a snapshot of things that are already happening. You see the 2 ports. It's not on scale, by the way, but you see that on every aspect of the roadmap that I've shown a few slides ago. So on supply, on infrastructure, and distribution and offtake, things are happening in the port, and we're creating an ecosystem where different companies, different elements, different projects from across that supply chain can meet each other so that we, together can work on the challenge towards the energy transition and the use of new clean molecules into our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. And I guess my main takeaway is the challenge is large, but so is the ambition. And Port of Antwerp Bruges seems pretty much set up for success with everything going on right now. So, yeah, pretty impressive. Of course, mentioned a few times, but the backbone of everything to make this happen is, of course, also the fact that we need to transport hydrogen from ports to eventually the off-takers and so on. So it needs to flow, it needs to go some places. And that by itself is an enormous challenge. And for that we have Laurent Remy today from Fluxys, who will provide us with a little bit more insight on what they are doing to make to play their role in this hydrogen transition. Laurent, go ahead.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Perhaps to reassure the audience, my title is External Communication Manager, but I'm actually an engineer turned communicator, so I shouldn't tell too much hogwash today. So Fluxys, we see ourselves really as an infrastructure company which is there to speed up the energy transition. Who are we? What are we doing? And I would say what are we not doing is important in that story. We are an energy infrastructure company, but what we are not doing, and we are not involved in energy production, in energy supply. We are transporting natural gas through our pipelines. We are storing natural gas in the underground on behalf of our customers, and we are operating LNG regas terminals. We started in Belgium, of course, then we spread our tentacles, I would say, across Europe, and in the early 2020s, we invested in Latin America, so we are present in Brazil and in Chile. And a few weeks ago, we took a participation in Oman OQLNG, sorry, which is the operator of the transmission system in Oman. As an absolute Harry Potter's fan, I'd like to say that we have phrased a strategy which sounds like a magic formula, 30-30-30. What do we mean by that? We mean that by 2030 we have the ambition to provide to the market a transmission capacity for hydrogen of 30 terawatt hour. And at the same time, we will provide to other players, likely, a capacity for CO2, which is expected to reach 30 million ton per annum. 30 terawatt hour of yearly capacity. Is that a lot? To give you an order of magnitude, the offtake on the natural gas market by Belgian customers was last year 150 terawatt hour. So it's about 20% of that amount. If you look at the capacity on an hourly basis, we are talking about 3.5% of the entry capacity of the Zeebrugge zone as a whole. Like previous speakers alluded to, Zeebrugge is a very important entry point for Flanders, for Belgium, but for Europe as a whole as well. We have there an available capacity of about 90 gigawatts. 90 gigawatts represents the capacity made available by 90 power plants, nuclear power plants of 1 megawatt each. It's a huge capacity. Okay, so it means that Belgium managed to develop the country really as a crossroads for international gas flows. And what we do for gas today, we will do it. We have the ambition to do it for hydrogen tomorrow. So we what you see on the left-hand side of the slide is our long-term vision for a hydrogen network. How did we get there? There were two important tracks. The first track was a regulatory one. So you have to know that Belgium has got a Hydrogen Act, which has come into force in July 2023. And that our company, or I would say a 100% affiliate of Fluxys Belgium, has been designated at the end of April as a hydrogen network operator. So that's the first important track. Of course, this is the direct consequence of the federal hydrogen strategy, who wants to develop Belgium into an import and transit hub for hydrogen, while at the same time developing a robust market. And this is something we are familiar with as a company. You have to know that we developed in Zeebrugge the first continental trading hub for gas back in '99. The first one was in the UK, the national balancing point, but we were the first one to do the same on the continent. So we are developing a long-term view, but you have to know that on a shorter-term basis, we have the ambition to have the first pipelines transporting hydrogen in the underground by mid-2026. And we are looking forward to investing in the region Ghent, Antwerp, and between those two very important industrial clusters. Of course, we are looking at Europe as well. We are part of the European Hydrogen Backbone Initiative, together with 33 other transmission system operators. The idea is, in order to be economically efficient, to reuse as much as we can of the existing infrastructure. So at the EU level, to give you an order of magnitude, the idea would be to reutilize 60% of the existing pipelines. So it's good to transport hydrogen, but of course, as a company, we are a link between the supply on one hand and the offtake on the other end. And we went through a very interesting exercise together with the market. So we went to our industrial customers in Belgium, and we asked them, what's your appetite for a connection to a hydrogen backbone? And we came across different profiles, some off-takers, some suppliers, and actually we had much more off-takers than suppliers, meaning that there was potentially a shortfall of hydrogen at the entry of the network. This was confirmed later on by a study made by the Wuppertal Institute in Germany, which you see on the right-hand side, and which say that in very much industrialized region like Flanders, like Benelux, and of course the Ruhrgebiet in Germany, there is typically a shortfall, an expected shortfall for green hydrogen, meaning that we will have to import it. And this is very much recognized by the EU as well, which they have the ambition to develop a market for hydrogen, which is 20 million ton of offtake by 2030, 10 million ton of which will be produced locally in Europe, 10 million ton will have to be imported. So the key message is this: the need to import means that the ports here in Flanders will play a prominent role in the years to come. Because what are the best ways to import hydrogen? Of course, you can import liquid hydrogen, but to liquefy hydrogen, you have to go to temperature to minus 253 degrees centigrade. So this might not be the best option, even though technologically, the first transports of liquid hydrogen have been made between Australia and Japan. So the technique is there, but it's quite, I would say, expensive and uneconomic, I would say. So there are other options like methanol, like synthetic natural gas, like a liquefied liquid organic hydrogen compound. But we do think that there is, I would say, a clear winner. I would say, as technologically, we know it's technologically possible now to do it. Of course, technique is evolving each and every day, but the clear winner seems to be ammonia. That's the reason why, as already mentioned in an earlier presentation, we are working on, together with Advario, on a very important project in the harbor of Antwerp. Together with Advario, we are working on an open access green ammonia import terminal, which should become operational by the end of 2028, with an optionality to crack hydrogen to crack ammonia back into hydrogen which will then be injected onto our hydrogen backbone, making it available for the Belgian industry, of course, but also to adjacent countries. One of the advantages of hydrogen, it's a molecule, and molecule can provide a hell of a lot of flexibility. Reason why we are working on a very interesting project in the region, in the northern part of the country, north of Antwerp, in a place called Loonhout, where we have an existing underground storage facility for natural gas. We have identified, I would say, a small pocket of this underground where gas has never been stored in the past, and we have injected 3,000 cubic meters of green hydrogen, just to see how this new molecule is interacting with the underground. If we are successful, if we convert this facility from natural gas to green hydrogen, we would be in a position to store 2.4 terawatt hours of hydrogen. Is that a lot? Yes, it's quite a lot. Huh? It corresponds to approximately 180 million home batteries of 13 kilowatt hour each So it's a lot. If you want another comparison, you can say it corresponds to approximately 30 million electric vehicles. So we are working very hard on this project together with partners, and one of the important partners is the Ghent University in that respect. So I'm at the end of the presentation. I will be happy to take your questions at the end of the session.
Thank you very much, Laurent. And indeed, the first questions are coming in, but if you have any more things that come to mind, don't hesitate to share. We will cover them after the last presentation. The last presentation being done by Mr. Denis Thomas, who is the Marketing Director, EMEA APAC at Accelera by Cummins. Denis, the floor is yours.
Great. Hello. Thank you for inviting me actually to participate to this interesting debate and webinar. Indeed, I represent a company called Accelera by Cummins, and we are a technology provider. You might be familiar with the company Cummins, which is manufacturing engines, traditional engines with diesel and gas engines, both for mobility applications and stationary applications. Our biggest customers in those spaces are, I would say, trucks, buses, but also what we call the off-highway sector, cranes, mining trucks, etc. So all the heavy-duty applications. On the generator side, backup power for data center, for hospitals is really, I would say, our bread and butter. Obviously, we are a company in transition. And so Cummins decided 5-10 years ago actually to invest into new technologies and made several acquisitions in that space, which are all hosted in a business unit which is called Accelera by Cummins, in which we find, say, electrolyzer technologies, fuel cells, but also all the say electrical mobility technologies to electrify the drivetrain of vehicles. In battery technologies, we have announced some joint ventures in the US with Daimler actually to produce batteries in the US, but also on all the electrical technologies getting on board. We are more than 70,000 people and active in 190 countries. Obviously, here on hydrogen, our main focus is on electrolyzers and fuel cells. For those who are not familiar with those technologies, electrolyzers are devices that will actually use power, and preferably renewable power or clean power, to actually break water and to produce hydrogen and oxygen. While fuel cells will do exactly the opposite. Fuel cells are going to use the hydrogen as a fuel, combine this hydrogen with oxygen taken from the air to then produce power and then release water as a byproduct. And as you can see, there is no carbon involved as long as the energy which is being used is clean. On the electrolyzer side, we have, I would say, two main markets. We have the traditional, I would say, industrial market. So we've been in that space for more than 70 years now. So the technology is not new, especially in locations where hydrogen was not available. But especially for the last 10 years, we are more and more active in all those new markets where we want to combine renewable energy with actually the industry that wants to actually buy, let's say, green molecules. And on the fuel cell side, we have two main market segments. The mobility market segment, for instance, let's say the trains running on hydrogen in Germany of Alstom are using, let's say, Accelera technology. And we are also active in stationary fuel cells. When we look at the, let's say, electrolyzers, which is the activity that we have hosted in Flanders, we manufacture those products. We manufacture small-scale products based on alkaline technology for projects which are below, I would say, 2 megawatts, with a technology that was developed completely in Flanders. That's what we see on the left side. Then we invested 20 years ago quite a lot of, let's say, R&D into a new technology, which is called PEM technology, which stands for proton exchange membrane technology, with our iLaser 500. Those two products, the iStat and the iLaser, they are like containerized system. They are plug and play. They contain all the technology actually to produce hydrogen and oxygen. They are very, let's say, easy to deploy on the field. and especially on the iLaser 500, we have a lot of those systems installed in hydrogen refilling stations in Europe, but also, I'd say, outside of Europe. For projects which are above 15, 20 megawatts, we decided to develop, let's say, different type of products which are not, let's say, containing all the balance of plant, because we think that those are usually available on site, and they are also tied with other industrial processes like ammonia technologies, like methanol, etc. So there are synergies at that level. And we collaborate very much with EPC companies, which are then integrating the technology that we manufacture in Belgium and then to install them into projects. Obviously, we keep investing into, let's say, the development of our products, especially for the large-scale electrolyzer projects with our iLaser 5000 and iLaser XXL, especially for those large projects which are developed outside of Belgium, but probably the hydrogen can be then imported into Europe. On the hydrogen side, I decided to include this picture because I thought it could be also helpful for the discussion. I think it's like connecting also all of us, more or less, where we see actually the link with the renewable electricity, with the power grids, and also like electrolyzers. And then we categorize usually the projects in which we are involved in like different segments. And we have what we call the power-to-power applications, where you can use, say, produce hydrogen, store it, and then potentially re-electrify that hydrogen. We have the gas route, where we can actually inject hydrogen in, let's say, gas grid, hydrogen grids, or gas grids, also to the methanation. There is like all the industrial applications. Those were obviously existing, so we are substituting, say, gray hydrogen produced from natural gas with green hydrogen produced from electrolysis and renewable power. But we see also in that space new applications, I'd say, emerging, like green steel, and it's a completely, I'd say, different, I'd say, process which is at stake with the idea to reduce carbon emissions. Obviously, there is all the fuel sector, e-fuels, aviation fuels, maritime fuels, future fuels that will rely on hydrogen, and obviously mobility, which is one of the, say, very elegant application of hydrogen for like cars, buses, trains, and there are many applications that can run on hydrogen. And obviously, we agree also with the, say, previous speakers that ammonia will play an important role in the transition, because we really see ammonia as the liquid form of hydrogen for all the transport of hydrogen, I'd say, between continents. So coming back on the electrolyzer side, we are, say, industry leader in PEM technology. We have already deployed the technology at a 20 megawatt scale on a project with Air Liquide in the Quebec region in Canada for more than 3 years. In that place, the hydrogen is being liquefied and then distributed to industrial customers. And that's obviously one of our, I'd say, main reference until now. We have already installed, let's say, higher capacities. The last one is a 25 megawatt in the US with Nextera, where the technology is combined with solar power and it's operated in a very dynamic manner. And in that project in the US, the hydrogen is re-electrified in combination with natural gas in a gas turbine that can actually burn the blend of natural gas with hydrogen. So we see the versatility of the, I'd say, hydrogen applications, but also the fact that technology is not new and it's demonstrated. On the manufacturing side, we are investing quite significantly in different regions. Historically, all the, say, electrolyzer activities of Accelera by Cummins, they come from the acquisition of Hydrogenics, which was a Canadian company with operations in Belgium and in Canada. So obviously, we have kept those two sites and expanded them. In Belgium, we have more than doubled, I'd say, our production capacity. We now have, I'd say, 18,000 square meters of production facility in Oevel, which is located between Antwerp and Hasselt. We have started, say, to produce PEM cell stacks, thanks also to some, say, innovation funding that we received from Flanders as part of the important project of common European interest. So it's a nice place actually to make investments in Belgium because you are supported by the authorities to do that. That's also where we manufacture, let's say, most of the containerized systems. We have started the production in a new factory also in Spain because we believe that we need also to be close to our markets, and Spain is definitely an important market for our products. We also have, let's say, two production facilities in North America. One in Canada, which was a legacy from Hydrogenics, and we also converted partially one of the existing site of Cummins, producing gensets that started to make the production of electrolyzers last year. And lastly, we have also a joint venture with Sinopec in China, where we manufacture also our electrolyzers for the Chinese market. So that's where we are right now. We are investing massively into this new technology. Belgium plays an important role in our organization. We have between 250 and 300 people in Belgium today. That's the biggest, I'd say, electrolyzer center as part of the Accelera Group. So clearly, a lot of things are starting from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denis. Very interesting. Now we actually have some time to move to the second part of the webinar, which is the Q&A part. And I have seen that a lot of questions are coming in as we speak. I might peek a little bit at my phone as the team behind the scenes is forwarding them to me as we speak. And one, not unsurprisingly, big topic that is immediately being raised is obviously the cost competitiveness of hydrogen. And maybe the cost of hydrogen will depend on many things in the value chain, starting with the way you produce your hydrogen. If it's green, the cost of your green electricity and the conversion too, things like that. And then also the transport. If it's not, right next door, then you probably have to transport it. So let's cover a few of those things. And maybe we can start again with Denis, building on, the electrolyzer part. What kind of innovations moving forward? How should we envision the path of electrolyzers in the coming 5 to 10 years? What kind of things is Accelera by Cummins working on at the moment to increase efficiency and eventually also, I guess, cost efficiency of hydrogen production? Yeah.
Yes, that's a very, very good question. Obviously, cost is, let's say, the focus of most of the industry right now, on top of, say, developing new products. So there are different parts actually in the cost equation. Obviously, there is the electricity part, which is usually the bulk of, let's say, the production cost for hydrogen production. Then there is all the investments which are required actually to, say, produce your hydrogen. And so then you can think about the electrolyzer cost, the EPC cost, the project cost, etc. And then all the costs actually to then inject or valorize the hydrogen into like another process. On the electrolyzer part, which is the one for which actually we are responsible, we are clearly developing a roadmap to reduce the cost of the technology by upskilling our products, by also developing the right supply chains, because there is obviously quite a lot of work. It's a new industry to get into that scale, but the supply chain needs to be developed and actually needs to upscale, and we need more suppliers for the different components actually to get, I'd say, more attractive prices from our suppliers. And obviously there is innovation. Actually try to develop, let's say, technologies and concepts which are, I'd say, cheaper to be manufactured, which are more efficient, which can actually produce more hydrogen, and that's clearly, I'd say, on those innovations that we are focusing right now.
Okay, quite clear. I guess then the next kind of natural following question would be: imagine you have very much optimized the production of your green hydrogen locally at some place. Then you need to start being able to ship it. You already touched upon it a few times. It seems ammonia is the holy grail potentially. In that conversion, of course, every conversion will have its cost. The shipping will have its cost. I don't know, maybe Gilles, if you want to mention something about how the future is looking there and how that might improve over the coming 5 to 10 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I want to add a little bit to what Denis said. Indeed, the large bulk of the cost of your hydrogen is in the production part, and it's in the electricity part. And it was mentioned before, we don't have the renewable energy availability in our region, but also the cost of electricity here is very high. So let's produce that hydrogen where that electricity cost is low, then we can do it at optimal conditions. But then you get the question of getting it here. It's a smaller part in the equation, in the total cost equation, but it's a relevant part. You need to do it effectively in the form that is most suited for transport. And there you see solutions as ammonia, because it can be made easily liquid at ambient conditions, or at a bit slightly over pressure, or a bit below zero, which has an existing supply chain, existing storage facilities, existing shipping technologies, so that storage and transport from those locations where you can produce your hydrogen cheaply is existing. We will need different solutions in the future. I think of methanol, for example, because we get a lot of questions from the demand side on that type of molecule, from chemical industry, from maritime industry. And so on those different carriers and how to produce them, convert hydrogen to those different carriers, and how to ship them, there is still a bit of innovation, of development ongoing. For methanol, you need a carbon source. Where do you get it sustainable, and at what price? If we're talking about direct air capture, for example, also there, in that type of technology, innovation is needed to bring costs down. We've mentioned liquid hydrogen today. It's still at a very high price to store it at those minus 250 degrees and ship it at those conditions. So also there, innovation is needed to get that supply chain going.
Okay. I don't know if somebody else wants to add on this. Maybe also Laurent, from the Fluxys perspective, you're also close. Yeah, well, you eventually have to bring it to the customer, who will eventually have to pay for it. So maybe you have something to add on that.
Yes, I would start by saying that together with Port of Antwerp Bruges and together with Waterstofnet, we did a study a few years ago called the Hydrogen Import Coalition Study. Like you said, we should import hydrogen from regions where it can be produced cheaply. And this study has had a huge merit in identifying places across the world where it can be made. And the reason why Fluxys invested in Chile and in Oman, it's because those two countries are very well positioned. You have a lot of sun in the Atacama Desert in the north of Chile. You have a lot of wind in the southern part of the country. In Oman, it's more a temporal than geographical split. You have a lot of sun during the day and a lot of wind during the night. Those countries are very well positioned to produce green electricity at an affordable cost. And I think what we should be aware of, it's if you look at the price of green electricity, a decade or 2 decades ago, it was no way to put this electricity on a trading hub at an affordable price without being heavily subsidized. If you look at the market nowadays, green electricity is in the money. So the market for green hydrogen is a nascent one. With open access to a multi-user environment, it's something new. So we must not be surprised that the prices are rather high, but those prices will go down. It's all we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alvin, you want to add something to that?
Yes, maybe because the need said something about building the supply chain. I think that's very important. It's not only innovation, but it's very important building the supply chain. And then also we see in our cluster, because when we started our cluster in 2016, it was we had only 20 members, and the real hydrogen believers started. So that, but now we have 175, and it's not about only hydrogen believers. It is people are making valves, making pumps, making electric converters, making water treatment with the ceilings. So you see that all kind of companies are now, we were not originally not active in hydrogen, but they are thinking, can we add something on this? And I think it's very important that we build a kind of ecosystem, because we need to build the supply chain. And we see also in our network that all kind of surrounding companies are coming in, and I think that's also beneficial for the producers of the fuel cells or the engines and the electrolyzers. And I think it's also a sign that thing is going to the commercial world, industrial world more. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, of course, indeed. I guess the cost and everything, it's the full value chain, starting with the electricity production, in the case of green hydrogen. And we could probably do a complete separate webinar on that. But also, getting that hydrogen somewhere, and then the applications and things like that to make that more things. So it's innovations and things that happen across the full value chain.
I can add one thing
Yes.
on this element, and I have in mind, let's say, the presentation of Adwin with all those projects. We need to move from individual projects into products. Something which become really standardized, so that you can valorize the investment you put in your product to have like a low cost for like let's say a widespread deployment of those technologies. And this will be key. This has been key also like for the solar industry and the wind industry. So standardization is really essential.
Standardization, I guess, scalability to make that happen.
Exactly.
It will be important as always. Of course, we towards there's many colors of hydrogen. All right, and there's many projects going on at the moment, moving forward, and of course, a lot of attention is going to import coalitions, green hydrogen, so on. But of course, there is also things like blue hydrogen, for example. Some projects going on. Also, Flux is involved in those. Could that be also, impact on cost moving forward to get there, maybe as a transition step, because the demand is so big in our region that we can maybe not wait while we are getting there, to as a kind of step-by-step approach to reaching a more and more greener hydrogen. That could be a first step, as we have infrastructure available, for example, for delivering gas. And then then we need to cover the CO2 and see what we do with that, bring it back to where the gas came from, for example, or those kind of projects. Will those be needed to impact the cost on the short term and to kind of convert the maybe non-believers into getting there quicker?
I think if you want to upscale the availability of hydrogen, you need to consider, I would say, the rainbow of hydrogen. So it's good, of course, to go for renewable hydrogen based on electrolysis. But if you want to upscale, if you want huge volumes, you have to consider, I would say, a whole range of possibilities. You mentioned blue hydrogen. There is a very important project going on indeed in the region of Ghent, which is called the H2B. Where Equinor and Engie, which are the two main partners, are considering a 1 gigawatt availability of hydrogen, which is roughly speaking 200,000 kilograms of hydrogen per annum, which is, by the way, 50% of the annual hydrogen consumption today. So if you want to upscale quickly, you have to consider other colors than only green hydrogen. So blue hydrogen is an example. There are other colors. One which was not that important a few years ago was the golden hydrogen or the white hydrogen, which is the one you find naturally in the underground. So in France, in the northeastern part of France, in the region of Moselle, they were looking for a mine gas, and they discovered hydrogen in a gaseous form. So without being associated with carbon or nitrogen or whatever, you're talking about 46 million ton of available hydrogen in the underground, which is half the annual production in 2022. So this is massive. So things are changing rapidly.
Okay.
If I may,
Yes.
I indeed want to complement what Laurent is saying. So we will need different colors of hydrogen to get that economy going, get that volumes of then, let's call it clean hydrogen into our industry. Also for different aspects. For example, also in the Port of Antwerp, today we have hydrogen production, grey hydrogen production. Why not invest in getting the carbon footprint of that production down by installing carbon capture installations on it, which is exactly what is going on with the Kairos at Sea project from Air Liquide and BASF. So they are going to capture their CO2 and provide the hydrogen that they're currently providing to their customers with a lower carbon footprint, eventually contributing to the goal that we all have in the global warming challenge. Furthermore, if we want to, in the end, go to that renewable energy use and renewable hydrogen, this challenge is massive, and we will need large-scale infrastructure. And also, that infrastructure, those pipelines, those terminals, well, they don't really see what the color of the molecule is that is going through them. So if you can build a business case for blue hydrogen, well, then you can get that infrastructure in place, which can then be further utilized in the future for more renewable hydrogen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's that kind of sums it up. The fact that we have all those things in place. We are already doing hydrogen production, as you said, but then in a grey way. Why not already try to solve that? The rainbow of colors we probably need. It's not one that will win everything. It will be we will need probably all the colors of this rainbow in order to transform. The planet cannot be is no longer patient, I guess, to wait for us to find the one and only solution. And maybe Denis, you want
Probably
to add?
not all the colors, because there are some of the colors we want to get out of the rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the black and the brown and the gray
Yes.
hydrogen, those are the ones we want to actually get moved out of the rainbow and replace them by all the renewable, low carbon, blue, etc.
True.
As long we should not forget that actually we are here because we want to fight climate change. And that's where actually hydrogen has a role to play. So as long as we reduce CO2 emissions, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say we'll keep it to the colors that are in the rainbows that my children are drawing on a daily basis. And there is not too much black and gray in that, I have to say. Okay, very well. We're getting a lot of questions from the audience. And so first of all, thank you for that. The ones that we'll not be able to cover during this session, we'll make sure, because there's lots of also questions to individuals around specific projects, specific things. We'll make sure to forward them and share them with the panelists, so they will be able to reply to you after this webinar. One question that I'm reading right here is what about consumers that are not directly linked to a Fluxys backbone and they want to make use of hydrogen? How can they benefit from this hydrogen transition? How can they use it? I can think of a few things, but maybe someone wants to comment on technologies and things that, okay, I am a small SME and I'm kind of far from this hydrogen installation. How can we convert and make use of this hydrogen transition? If somebody wants to,
I can.
yeah,
No.
If you want, I can take the first start of an answer, because in my presentation I presented a case actually where green hydrogen was produced in the Quebec region using hydropower, and where industrial customers actually delivered by trucks. And in that case, they've chosen actually liquid hydrogen because the radius they need to cover is in a range of 300-400 kilometers, and that's the right, I'd say, way to transport hydrogen at scale. But then truck delivery is certainly an option. That's how most of the hydrogen is being delivered today for, let's say, companies which are not connected to any kind of pipeline.
Yeah. Maybe Adwin, I don't know if Gilles.
No, I also want to mention, indeed, the backbone will connect different large industrial clusters, but as a port, we're most well known for our logistics, and that's our core business actually as a port. So we're very well connected to the different regions surrounding us by rail, by barge, by truck. And so all those modes will play a role in providing that renewable energy, renewable hydrogen, in what form soever. It can be indeed liquid, it can be liquid or organic hydrogen carriers, can be different solutions depending on the mode of transport, on the distance, on the end user application. But so also those logistic modes will play a role.
Maybe to add on this, we are developing a special project, a hydrogen valley in Flanders, where the four ports, or the four port areas, Ghent, Oostende, Antwerp, Zeebrugge, are working together. And they have different projects with production and also with end users. And therefore, there also we will test a kind of swappable container concept, so that you have standardized, as Denis said, standardization is very important, that you have a kind of standardized container with a few hundreds of kilograms of hydrogen, and then we can in the future use the backbone to fuel this, but now to use the electrolyzer plants, and then bring those standardized containers to the end users. So that also is a very good way to transport those containers by train or by ship or by truck. So this is also an idea that's really happening in Flanders now.
My message to the customers is that we have knocked at their doors back in 21 for our call for market interest. If we forgot some of them, and some of them would like to get a connection to our backbone, I mean, you come to our website, you click on the hydrogen part of it, and then you can register and you can ask information as to how can I best connect to the backbone. And I think making the link between the use of the backbone and the prices, one of the key elements to reduce the price paid by the end user, in that case an industrial end user, is the transit activity. So we are a country here I would say in the center of Europe with the lowest tariffs for natural gas. How did we achieve that? By attracting huge volumes of transit between countries in the northwestern part of Europe, UK, Germany, Netherlands, France. We have big neighbors. If we manage to do the same with our backbone for hydrogen, and by attracting huge volumes flowing naturally between the ports or the electrolyzers, of course, which may not be located in ports, but somewhere else. If we can manage to attract huge volumes of hydrogen and to make them flow through our system towards Germany, towards the Netherlands, and towards France, we will have the same positive effect of keeping tariffs very low.
And probably last answer to those people not connected to hydrogen grid is produce it on site.
Yeah.
You have electricity, you have water, buy an electrolyzer.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? Of
This
course.
has been our business for the last 70 years.
And then I'm sure they can be in touch with you, Denis,
Yes.
to make that happen. Okay, no, wonderful. There's a few other questions coming in. Maybe one question also to Gilles again. So somebody have heard there is an innovation site on your location. If they are interested to start, can they be in touch with you? What kind of projects are you welcoming in this field of hydrogen? What can Port of Antwerp Bruges mean for those kind of hydrogen companies that might be interested to come to the Port of Antwerp Bruges?
Yeah, to give a bit more background, indeed, we have an innovation area within the port that we have reserved for those innovative companies, projects, and so on. It goes in. It has a certain scope which is quite broad. It wants to prepare the port as a very industrial hub today, chemical industry, for those industrial activities of tomorrow, and that goes from recycling, waste activities, how to get towards circular economy, but also renewable energy projects, manufacturing projects. And so the link with hydrogen there is definitely existing, how to implement hydrogen in that circular economy, but also manufacturing of hydrogen technologies. So we are hosting, I think we have announced a company that will develop their technology for a new type of hydrogen production unit, has been awarded a spot on that space. So definitely, if there are companies interested to hear the possibilities and to check if it's the right solution for them, they can definitely contact me, and then I can put you in contact with the right people at our organization.
Yeah, or also here, of course, at Flanders Investment and Trade, we're always ready to listen and to connect you to the right people in case you have any hesitation on who to exactly reach out to, and we'll make sure to bridge that connection. And yeah, I guess also one of the example projects which won the FIT investment award last year was the Plug project that is also being announced now on the side of Antwerp Bruges. I'd like to maybe go to a second, let's say top number of questions, which is related to what sets us a little bit apart here in the region of Flanders, Belgium, as an innovation area in this case. I know Adwin has already mentioned a few things. Is there something maybe, Adwin, you want to that you think that really, that's the one key differentiator from any other country or region that wants to put themselves on the map as a hydrogen innovation spot? What differentiates us here in the region?
Yes, I already said in my presentation, of course, that we have this ports and this unique setting, and this very dense area where demand and activity and transport are coming together. It's a very small part, 125, 150 kilometers. You have everything, so that's a very unique point, I think. And the second thing is, I always said 15 years, almost 20 years in the hydrogen active. It's a matter of doing. We should do, and I think that's a good thing about Flanders. I have this picture. It's not the most nice picture to see because it's all kind of photos, but we need to start doing things. And we will not start with gigawatt plants. We don't start with hundreds of trucks, but we should start. And we should avoid discussing 3 to 4 years about the colors of hydrogen and all kind of things. It's very important. But beside this, we need to realize parallel track changes. And I think Flanders has the advantage that we have real companies and we have real photos. And I think the most important thing is that the coming years we should do. And therefore, I think Flanders has some track record, and with companies like Accelera, like Fluxus, like the ports, I think we have the real ingredients to make the next steps visible, and not only PowerPoints. I think that is for Flanders, and we are not shouting that much around the globe that we have all these activities here. Some other countries are more stronger in this, but sometimes maybe you say it's a best kept secret that we have such amount of hydrogen innovation in our own country, combined with this ambition. So I think I see a lot of possible activities based on a track record.
Yeah. Based on our track record, and also we are maybe a small region, but we make use of the things we have. To give the example, what is it, 60 kilometers of coastline? But if you look at our coast map, it's extremely densely, it's very much planned. And things are happening with now close to 3 gigawatt of offshore wind production, and soon, and also which will double soon with the installation of the new Princess Elizabeth zone also. So things are happening in many different areas. I think that is something that comes back in our region. We're doers and we do things, and that's things are happening and are able, and collaboration with that. I think that we've seen it in every presentation. Fluxus, it might be, started out as the Belgian operator for gas pipes and so on, but you see their story is way more than just Flanders, Belgium or something. It's a global footprint. It's a global picture.
And I think it was an important word which was mentioned during the presentation, is interconnectivity. We are a small country. Flanders might be considered as a small region, but we have a hell of a lot of infrastructure out there. We have pipelines, we have terminals, we have ports, we have everything it takes, and we are very well interconnected to our big neighboring countries. We have the Dunkirk LNG terminal, coming back on energy, which is not so far away from Belgium, with a pipeline connection. We are very well connected to the Netherlands through the Ghent region, through Antwerp. So we have to take advantage of that. It's already this very high level of interconnectivity is already existing today for natural gas. We simply have to replicate this model for new molecules, being hydrogen in the first place.
Yeah, and there's no sign on the wall that we will not be able to do that. So I think we're pretty much set to move forward to that. And I think, we talked about the innovation that's here. There was the question, collaboration. There is also specific questions on collaborations with, for example, Denis, but I will reach out to you afterwards with this question. And then I guess collaboration, innovation, and the mentality that we have here to actually make that happen. And a final thing, and maybe also Gilles you can comment, but yeah, a chemical cluster, which is the biggest one in Europe, second one after Houston worldwide. The market, right? The market is here. They have the challenge, but it's gigantic what is happening. And for those of you who ever want to come and visit us, I'm sure we will happy to take you through the ports and to the ecosystem in Ghent, in Antwerp, and we'll happy to show you around. And it's quite impressive what's happening. With all these companies and things like that.
Yeah, definitely the market is here, and not only here. I want to further stress what the other panelists have said. We're very well interconnected, and we're a small region, a small country, but we really play this center role, this hub role in reaching those other markets surrounding us. I think the German Ruhr area is one of the most industrialized regions of Europe. And it's very close to us, to Flanders, to the port of Antwerp-Bruges. And so we can build on the strengths that we have here, on the market that we have here, but also on the market that surrounds us and that we're very well connected to.
Yeah. Denis, you want to add?
Yeah, I would like to add probably say two dimensions actually to the value of Flanders actually on hydrogen is the level of expertise we can find actually in the region. It's linked with the supply chain, which has been described by Edwin, but also by the level of education in the region. And also we are very close to the decision makers because hydrogen is a regulated market. And so we are very close to the European institutions, which are actually defining the rules actually for this market to emerge, which is so very, say, practical for our industries.
Yeah. Regulation, things like that is another topic. Maybe if somebody wants to add on that, but otherwise, I think, there is, of course, any new types of innovation, new kind of change, transition is coming with regulations, is coming also with European ambitions, Green Deal, etc. There is lots of things happening. The ambition is big, but of course, there's also particular challenges. Somebody wants to comment on that, feel free. But otherwise, we're almost done, I think, with today's webinar. I think let me just finish with thanking the panelists, Denis, Laurent, Adwin, and also Gilles for joining me today. I also definitely want to thank all the team of Flanders Investment and Trade, not only the offices worldwide, obviously, that helped us into spreading the message that we're having this webinar today, but also to the team, Corinne, Hannah, and Jacques, who made sure that this was all possible. So thank you for that. And I'll give you just a last summary, I think, of what we discussed today. I think what we've seen is a region that is that has a big challenge ahead of it, but has also all the ingredients and has everything here: the interconnectivity, the market, the innovation, the talent, the expertise, as Denis also mentioned in his last sentence. So I think a lot of things are here. And if you ever need any more help in discovering more of this ecosystem, we're more than ready to assist you, be it directly here in Brussels or one of our offices worldwide. So with that, definitely reach out. Don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we hope to see you soon in real life or over a call if that's needed. Thank you very much for joining us today. I wish you a lovely day ahead, and see you next time. Thanks a lot.